Hi guys, in this video I will be demonstrating how to connect your website to use Cloudflare. I've created an article about Cloudflare on my website that explains exactly what Cloudflare does. It's net technology, speed and CDN, and this is the article. I will link to all the important relevant articles in this video's description so you can check them out and read them in detail. So to briefly explain, Cloudflare makes your website a bit more secure, faster running, and they have a great DNS, so any changes in the DNS propagate super quickly and you don't have to wait for 24 hours or longer when you are migrating websites and doing some other stuff. So that's probably in practice one of the most important features they offer, but also their additional security they offer and additional speed for websites, especially for visitors who are not close to your hosting server. They are offered for free. You can pay for their higher grades, that services that offer some other extra features, but the free package they offer is also very powerful and very good, and I've been using it since 2018 or something and have been quite happy with it. So here I will show how to create a Cloudflare account, how to protect it, and how to get your websites working using Cloudflare. This series of videos is sponsored by Porkbun, domain registrar company. Porkbun.com is their website, and that is the domain register that I use. Their prices are among the cheapest, while they still offer great security and top-class support. That has been my experience, and that's why I'm using their services. And the hosting provider, HostMantis, their website is hostmantis.com, and that is my hosting provider of choice. When I consider the priorities, my priorities are security, stability, so that my websites don't go offline every now and then, and good technical support. And out of those providers who satisfy these three criteria, I'm looking for the cheapest one, of course. And HostMantis has been, in my experience, since 2019 among the fastest performing, if not the fastest performing of those whose services I've tried, and also the cheapest one that satisfies all my criteria. So I'm using their services, and for making this series of videos I asked all the providers of the services I use, saying I'll be promoting your services anyway, if you wish to sponsor, cool. And HostMantis and Porkbun have sponsored this series of videos, so thank you a lot. And now let's get on to Cloudflare. I will be making a new account, clicking on sign up, going to cloudflare.com, sign up, and I'll be using a password manager for this series of videos, and I will link to all the relevant videos, among others the one that shows how to install, configure, and how to use a password manager. And here I will create a new group and call it DNS, and create a new subgroup that will be called Cloudflare. And here I'll be putting the info about my Cloudflare account. So they want me to make an email and a password in order to create an account. So the email I use for this series of tutorial videos will be BikeGremlinTutorial.gmail.com, and password, I will use a password generator from my email will be and for password I will be using a password generator. I want password to be 25 characters long at least, and let's see what it can come up with. I want special characters also. Okay, this one looks tricky enough. Okay, copy pasting it here, saving this to confirm it's been saved. Okay, now I can use it here. Okay, I don't want any advertising. Okay, let's create an account. here it is. Here is our account created. And before I do anything else, I will secure the account using two-factor authentication. Let's go to my profile and let's see where that option is. Authentication. Okay, two-factor authentication. I want to set this up. There is a video showing how to use software for two-factor authentication. My choice is Authy, and I'll link to videos showing how this is done in this video's description, and they might pop up somewhere as you're watching this in top right corner. And I want to say security key. No, I want mobile app. That's the one I want. Okay, add. And now I'm opening my application for two-factor authentication on my computer. That's Authy, and opening it, I need to log in. And now let's see, I'm going to settings and accounts, and I want to create a new account, clicking plus, and now I get to scan the QR code. Scan QR code. Okay, it's been scanned, and now here it says Cloudflare for the email BikeGremlin tutorial, so that's good enough. They already have the Cloudflare logo for the popular services that's available, so I can click here save, and now I can go back to my account, and here is the temporary token for the Cloudflare that I can enter here and get it done. So they want my password for this account. Let's go back here and copy paste the password, and they want this code, like this one will be for the next 20 seconds working. So let's try 623470. I have this installed on my computer as well, the application, so if my phone gets damaged I can still log in. And I also shown how to do that on the video about Authy. Okay, they want my password again, copy pasting it. Alright, these are the backup codes. In case something gets wrong with my two-factor authentication app, I can still use these as the last resort. Each one works for only one login, so I can at least log in and disable two-factor authentication. And I will also save these codes here, just in case. 2FA backup codes. I think this is a good idea. I'm saving this. Of course, I'll be deleting all these accounts and editing all the passwords before that, before the video is published, but this is just for demonstration. You should keep all this info secret. Your login email, which is your login username for most services, and all your passwords, not showing them on YouTube, of course. And you should make sure that your email is well secured. Here is the article on my website on that. Domain and website securing. I will also link to this article in this video's description, and I'm looking for this picture. Here is the chapter, the big picture, and all the services are usually connected to some email, so if you forget the password you will be given a reset password link to that email. That's why it's important to have a very secure email, to definitely secure that one with two-factor authentication, which is like a security joker that adds an extra layer of security that is very much stronger than just using username and password. So it's a good idea for the critical services to have that configured. Okay, so this is it. Okay, done. Next. If you haven't saved, regenerate, I can regenerate the two-factor codes, which I've done already. I'll save them. Next. Okay, it's enabled, and that's it. Now while I'm making these videos, in order to make it simpler for me to log in whenever I need to, and since I will be deleting the account, I will most probably disable two-factor authentication in the later on, and that is done this way in case you need to disable it for whatever reason. And I can say now here reconfigure or delete, and that will remove the two-factor authentication and the account will no longer have that protection. But sometimes for troubleshooting, or if you have problems with your app for whichever reason, you might want to remove this. Okay, now let's go back to the home page. Somehow they've edited their menus. They used to be a bit more intuitive, at least for me. Maybe this works better for the young normal people. Okay, they are now offering me all sorts of services that I'm not interested in. Can't escape that. They live on upsells. They are not financed by selling our data. Their business model is different, so that's a good thing. And the inevitable consequence is these constant upsells that you get offers. And for those who need them, it's a good value for the money, in my opinion at least. So, but we will not be needing them for small to medium-sized websites anyway. Definitely not for this tutorial. Okay. New Cloudflare dashboard. Turn the new navigation off. Tell us what you think. Okay, we'll get back to that later. All right, I will be using this in this video because I expect it to remain in use for future, like all the other new flashy stuff, but it's not as good. All right, now we need to add a website, and for this series of videos I have created two websites. One is like a main website for my for managing everything else on my reseller hosting account, and we'll add that one first. Let's go here to the client area. Sorry, we don't even need to work this on the hosting account. This is just related to domain. So here is our main working domain. Copy here, and we'll say add website, and we'll paste it here. This is bg like BikeGremlinWorkingDomain.com, add site. And now I can choose something pro to pay money, but no, we'll go with the free one. Okay. It's scanning my DNS records, the existing ones. All right. These are the DNS records. There is an article on my website that explains this in great detail, and I will not be going into that a lot, not right now. And the main thing to note is that when this is enabled, all the traffic goes through Cloudflare. No one can go directly to my hosting server to go to this IP address. It will not be visible publicly, but they will go through Cloudflare. If I disable this, then they will go to my hosting server. You want to disable this for some services that need to go directly to your server. That's important when you are first time installing SSL or TLS certificates, the HTTPS certificates, whatever anyone calls them, like the ones offered from Let's Encrypt that are shown in my previous video series how that's installed. So if I hadn't already configured this, I would first need to disable all the routing that goes through Cloudflare in order to have those certificates installed, and later for renewal I don't have to disable it. I can re-enable Cloudflare and it will work because the existing server already has the certificate configured and Cloudflare can communicate with it using that. So for now, for this use, it is not needed. I can disable all this, and I will be configuring my own email account server and all the other important data, so I can delete most of these DNS records, because I don't want people to access stuff that are not really necessary for them to see and access, because DNS records are published publicly. But before we do that, we'll leave it as it is for now. We'll click continue, and we want to set our name servers. We are now using these two name servers, and we should use Cloudflare's name servers. So I'm copying this to clipboard, the first one. going to the domain. This is the one, details. I've already logged into Porkbun. Let's see. Am I still logged in? No, I need to sign in. Okay. Okay, I've signed in using two-factor authentication, and now let's see the details for this domain. And I need to edit the authoritative name servers. Paste the first ones and just paste the from here. The first one, enter, and the second one. Ctrl V to paste it. Okay, submit. This will take a while. I can say here now done, and it will take a while for it all to be propagated so that Cloudflare can say, okay, you're running now through our network and using our DNS. But before that, I can do some basic configuration. And for this setup, I've created an article where I've listed all the options that have proven to work well with Cloudflare and WordPress. For I mostly use WordPress websites, and there are very slight variations for other types of websites, other frameworks and things like that. So this is generally a good starting point for all the setup that's listed here. And so I can go through all the options and configure them manually. Now Cloudflare is offering me some basic stuff, so let's see what I said. Okay. Yes, okay. Here I explained why I think it's a good idea for it not to be enabled, and yes, okay. Save. Let's go on. This, I'm not sure. Again, I think it's best to leave it off. Yes, okay. I think this should be all enabled. Yes. I'll explain what each of these options really does. In the article there's an explanation, so broadly should be on. Yes. Alright, finish. And I can click this to manually check the name servers, to ask Cloudflare, please look again, and they look automatically every hour. So there's no need to do anything there. Okay, while we're waiting, I will add another domain, add site, and here we will use our website that will be actually running WordPress. And we'll do the same. Here I'm using the custom name servers I had created for my on my reseller hosting account for the created shared hosting sub account, but I will edit them to use Cloudflare. Okay, they're listed here, but I will be using these ones. The downside of using this is that if I move to a different server, the accounts, the sub accounts who have been configured to use these name servers needn't touch anything, but the ones on Cloudflare will have to change their DNS IP address, I will show that later, to point to the new server. So there is a trade-off, but I think it's worth it, and you should be able to configure Cloudflare for your server, and hosting providers technical support will not be able to help you with this because they shouldn't have an access to your Cloudflare account, and I don't think it covers the technical support scope. You can hire always some freelancer to do this for you, but here I'll show how you can do that all by yourself relatively easily. Control A, delete, Control V, enter. Then let's get the other one, Archer and Veda. Okay, submit. Okay, now we can go on back here, say done, check name servers, get started. This goes off. This goes off. Okay. Enabling all these. All right. Now I can ask Cloudflare to check name servers, and it said please wait a few hours for an update. Okay, while we're waiting, we will go back here and we have the working domain. We want to configure DNS for this one. And for this to work, let's go to our hosting account. This is our hosting server. Okay, that's important to note. And I have already installed and configured certificates for with Let's Encrypt for HTTPS. So I needn't click on this to disable it in order to be able to install certificates. But otherwise I would have done that. I will now show how it's done. I can disable it here, set time to the relevance time to 1 minute, the shortest possible period when I'm making these edits, and later I can set it to the longest possible period once I've configured it all properly. So this would be the procedure, like disable it, click save, and I would also disable this www, also click save. Then I need to get away from this menu, otherwise the changes will not be propagated. I just need to click somewhere else, like email or whatever, and then I can go back. It's all been propagated now. So that's the first thing to note. I will now re-enable this, and then the time to leave will be set to auto. Means Cloudflare does it the best way it thinks it's supposed to work, and I won't be going into details of how DNSs work, talk to each other and everything. This video would then be like a whole series of videos, hours. And what I want to do is to delete everything that I'm not using. That means a bit less, it's called an area of attack for the security, and everything I'm not using is deleted and goes out. And so for this particular setup with this particular hosting provider, I needn't use any of these on my main hosting account. So I will click on this and say delete, and repeat that for all the records. I will also be deleting the www subdomain. That is actually, in fact, this is www.bgworkingdomain.com. I want to set that up as a CNAME. Without going into much details why that's important, I will just do it and then show some things. And these are records for IPv6, the new Internet Protocol Address standard. In my opinion and experience, this still creates a lot more problems than it solves. If your server is able to connect through IPv4 and you're using Cloudflare, then you needn't worry about these records. So I will be just deleting them, and then in case of any server migrations, changes, change of IP address or anything, I just reconfigure this one. Okay, so without bothering you a lot more, I'll be deleting all the IPv6 alternatives, and all the visitors who use IPv6 will connect through IPv6 because my website uses Cloudflare. So this is still, in my opinion and experience, not worth it, not worth bothering with this. I'll also be deleting these email related DNS records because I want to configure my email properly. but I will do that only for the main account that will be sending and receiving emails through a separate service. For this one that use the just form administration, I'll let it be and use hosting providers email infrastructure. That should do the job. Okay, now I need to create a CNAME record, and that will be CNAME, and I want it for the subdomain www, and the target, that will be where this is aimed at, where it points, is our hosting server. And I can set this to run not through Cloudflare, and I want it to be set for as long as possible, and this will not be changed very often. Okay, this is good. What this does is allowing me to use to configure FTP, for example, for my sub accounts, for the account that we'll be using for website for this demonstration, and to set just use www.bgworkingdomain.com and to use its own login, username and password to create an FTP connection. Also, this enables me to directly connect to my DirectAdmin control panel, which I can use just a minute. I need to click here in order for the changes to propagate. And now, after Cloudflare has put this website on its infrastructure, that will take up to 24 hours for the first time when you enable it. Then I will be able to just click here https bgworkingsite.com, just workingdomain.com. Okay, let's copy paste it. workingdomain.com/ this is the port default one for the DirectAdmin, and if all the changes have been propagated, I will be given the screen to log into an account. Okay, it's working. Here I can now enter my main username and password for my account, or for the created sub account. So if I have a customer or want to directly go to that sub account, I can go there. But for the main account, I can go through my hosting panel, the domains login, and get logged in directly. And then if I log in as the main user, I can go to here list users and choose to log in as this user. So there are several ways to go there, but this makes things a bit faster, simpler. It's a cool option to have. If you want extra security, you can go to the DNS and completely disable this, or have it pointed to your root domain, and then you will be only able to log in through your hosting provider's control panel, which adds some extra security, and that's a bit of a trade-off, but this is secure enough, provided you don't disclose your working domain. Of course, it should not be shown like this on a YouTube video. Okay, now let's configure our website. Okay, this is it. I'll do practically the same. Okay, Cloudflare is now working. Cool. That didn't take long. Very, very wonderful. Going to DNS, and for all the other settings, I have an article. You can use that. Just go through one at a time, going through these menus and configure them all. It's nicely structured here. They're all numbered and given names. So you just go along and get it all done. But for this, I will delete the FTP because I have set up the working domain, and so our website will not have anything visible. The website.com will go through Cloudflare. The www version, which is in my opinion better to use than the naked domain, will also go through Cloudflare, and there will be no visible other records, so that no one can see the hosting website's IP address to be able to access it directly, avoiding Cloudflare's protection. So that's, in my opinion, a good idea and a good security measure. So I'll delete all these. Of course, here the IP address of the server is visible. Hosting provider does provide quite good security and protection. But again, this account is temporary and it will be deleted before these videos are published, just in case, just to be on the safe side. I had communicated that before starting with the provider, because I didn't want to get anyone into any kind of problems. I will be making new MX records when we get to that video about configuring emails using MX root service. That's what we'll be using for this example. And here now I just left the two IP addresses, and for now this should do, and we should be good to go as far as website itself is considered. I can just go away from this menu and then these changes will be propagated. And to get the server's IP address, I can just go here and see this, or go to my hosting providers menu and see the IP address that I need to add here. Now there is an advantage to making your www address be a CNAME instead of an A record, and that is what I will do here. I will delete this A record because I cannot have the same CNAME and the same A record existing at the same time, so I will delete it. Okay, and I will create add record CNAME, and the name will be www. This is what it boils down to. This is just a way to write it down, and the target will be our main domain. So it's all the same, it points to the same place, but it's configured in a different way, which for some advanced uses, like using load balancing to have the website put on two different servers with the exact copies, so the visitors being distributed depending on how close they are to each server and how much each server is loaded, and so on and so forth. When you come to that area, when your website has a huge number of visitors and everything, then you will start worrying about that. But this is preparation for that scenario that I suppose everyone is looking forward to. If they're making a website, they want huge number of visitors and popularity, whatever, a lot of money and so on. Yes, I'll just go fishing. Anyway, that's why I've created it like this, and now this is configured. And when we get to the email video, I'll be making and creating new DNS records for the emails here. If you don't want to use Cloudflare, you can set it all up using your hosting provider, and I will just show it here, DNS management. And here are all the relevant records, most of which we will not be using, so that's one of the reasons I prefer to just use the ones that are necessary and leave everything else invisible. And if I didn't use Cloudflare, then all of these records would be visible, so I'd have to log in here and edit and delete them accordingly. I can make this one, I can delete it and create a new CNAME for this, but I've configured this website to use Cloudflare, so this is all ignored, everything you see here. But if I didn't, this is where I would configure it, of course. So it is fairly simple to get your website up and running on Cloudflare, surprisingly simple. And just by doing this, when you install WordPress and configure it as shown in my article here, Cloudflare will provide you extra security and extra speed, serving many or most of your website images from the servers that are closest to the visitors, so they do not have to directly connect to your website. So it's quite a powerful tool, and it is a bit like Google in terms that it is a huge corporation, but for all I could tell, their business model does not rely on people being given advertised based on their private info and so on. They make money from upsells, and the services that they do offer with upsells are a great bang for the buck, as the Americans say. I think they are worth it, and probably the best of the existing offers in terms of what you get for what you pay for. It's just that I think that for most smaller websites that are just starting, or even medium-sized websites, it's not really needed. One thing, like a sort of a caveat that I have to disclose here, this is what I want to stress. You should configure your SSL certificates on your hosting server so that when Cloudflare connects to your hosting server, it can do so in a secure way, encrypted way, and then you can set this to full strict and leave it at that. And other setups that are shown here are not as good in terms that visitors will reach your Cloudflare server using an encrypted connection, and they will be not warned that the encryption might not be unencrypted, the connection might not be unencrypted down the line if you enable one of these options, because the connection from visitor to Cloudflare will be secure, but the other side of the connection will not be secure to your server. So data could be intercepted, and you are practically deceiving your visitors. They think they're visiting a secure connection, but they're not, and there's no way for them to check this. So I think it's ethical and important to set this to strict. If you set it to full, that means that the connection between Cloudflare and your server, hosting server, your website, is encrypted, but Cloudflare will let it go with any kind of certificate, even one that is not trusted, that may not be secure, like you set up some custom certificate on your hosting server, like I know what to do. I don't think that's a very good policy. I don't think it's very straight, honest policy with your website visitors. If you're going to do that, at least put some warning on your website, but you should install certificates, valid certificates on your hosting server, and then enable full strict. And that's how Cloudflare should be run. When you do this, servers, this is important to know, and you can do with this info whatever you think is best. When your browser, when your visitor goes to your website, it comes to Cloudflare first, and if they have any of their personal information that they are submitting, for example, you have a web shop and they want to give their phone number, email, address for shipping, or their home address and credit card number, whatever, all that goes via a secure encrypted channel to Cloudflare servers, the closest one to the visitor, and then it gets decrypted, because Cloudflare cannot just make like a VPN tunnel. It needs to decrypt that in order to do all their magic in terms of caching, minimizing, optimization and whatnot. So that all info needs to be decrypted on Cloudflare's edge servers that are secure, safe, everything. I have no doubts about that, but they are decrypted. And then they get re-encrypted using your server certificate, and hopefully a proper one, using full strict, and sent to your server. The same thing happens when your server responds. All that data goes using a secure channel, if you've set it up correctly, then gets decrypted and re-encrypted to communicate with your website's visitor. What this technically enables is for Cloudflare to record all the data that's been decrypted on their servers. Their business model, for all I could figure out, is not such that they need to rely on acquiring that data and reselling it, unlike some other huge tech giants. But it is a possibility. They can sell the data, they can give it to any authorities with a proper warrant. I suppose it would be very strange if they didn't do that. So for all the people who are very privacy concerned and GDPR and so on, this is a thing to note. So if you wish to avoid that scenario, the only way to do that is to go to DNS settings and disable Cloudflare as a proxy. You just use it as a DNS. In that case, it's like technically like any other DNS, so you needn't worry about that scenario. But you lose protection. Your website server's IP address becomes publicly visible. You cannot get Cloudflare's CDN, their caching of web pages, and extra security and all the other options. So it's a trade-off, and I think that the GDPR law that says you cannot host any data on US-based company servers, which is Cloudflare, to protect visitor security and privacy and so on, I think it's not very helpful in this scenario, because the extra protection that Cloudflare allows you from hackers and generally curious people is probably more important than being protected from secret services figuring out your data, because I personally don't think that even if you don't use this method, they cannot intercept information if they find it important or interesting. And I'm not really convinced that our currently existing encryption methods are beyond the means of being decrypted by the security services that are really interested. So I think it's a moot point. That's my personal opinion based on the little knowledge and experience that I have. So this is one area where GDPR gets doesn't solve a problem really, it even creates extra problems. At least that's my view of it, but I think this info should be disclosed for what it is, for as far as I know, and everyone else should make their own mind. And I definitely think it's a good idea to configure your website so that it does not have to use Cloudflare in case they start creating any kinds of problems or charging a lot of money or anything. And with this setup we can just disable it and change our name servers back to the ones we originally had, and it will all be up and running. Just make sure to edit all the DNS records here accordingly, and you might also want to delete the extra ones. And another cool thing is to save this setup if for no other reason than for a scenario like this. Okay, so we can click here advanced and export and save it in a text file. The DNS records are public, so you can save it in a text file. Of course, if you're using Cloudflare proxy to protect your IP address, you might want to save that text file on a mega NZ storage that is encrypted. Save it, copy paste it in a password manager, like create a new enter here like DNS records, and copy paste it there, so it is secure and encrypted, but it allows you to download all the DNS records. Okay, BGRs icon. Okay, this is the list of our DNS records. I can just copy paste this to our password manager and save it, and then delete this file. So, but it's a good idea to have a copy of your DNS records once you configure it all, set it all up, just in case something happens with Cloudflare, so you can manually edit it on your hosting server. And that's it. I think I've covered most of the most important stuff related to Cloudflare, and when we get to the video explaining email configuration, I will be using and setting those records up on Cloudflare directly, not using the hosting server, but principle is the same. Everything else is the same. So that's it. I hope this was clear enough and that it has helped you more than it has confused you. I use and recommend Cloudflare, and it's not the video is not sponsored by Cloudflare. I'm really using the service because it really is more good than bad, in my opinion. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and cheers. If you like this video, you can click on subscribe and choose this bell option, select all, so you get notified whenever I upload a new video.